what should the Detroit Lions do this offseason? That is the question that we are asking ourselves. And in this video, I'm kind of going to summarize a few things, or what I think the Lions basically should be looking to do this offseason to focus on not only now, but also the future a little bit. So let's get it started. I will talk about these more into detail if you guys want to see them, break them down one by one. But there's a few things that I think the Lions should do this offseason to make it a good offseason and potentially help themselves out now, which they need to do to save their jobs, and also help them out for the future because, you know, future is still important, especially if they got their jobs. If they get their jobs longer and then, you know, they're still, you know, here with Detroit and they're not fired, then it's going to be a situation where you need to have the future a little bit figured out. So with that being said, I think there's a few things that they need to do this offseason. Now, the first thing is this. Forget about the skill positions, okay? Just for now. Now, we'll come back to it, but for now, forget the skill positions. Don't look at this and say, let's go get Jeff Okudah. Let's go get the best wide receiver. Let's go get the best cornerback. Not necessarily Jeff Okudah, but let's go get the best skill position. No, look at the trenches out. That is where it all starts, and that's where the Lions should have their mind focused. And not even on the defensive side right now, offensively. I think this is the first thing that the Lions should be looking at is the offensive line. I know it's crazy. You're probably like, wait, offensive line? It wasn't even that bad. It wasn't that bad. You're exactly right. Graham Glasgow was solid. Taylor Decker was solid. Frank Ragnow was really good. But that's pretty much it. And the offensive line, to me, is maybe the biggest need this offseason. And I know it sounds crazy because it wasn't that bad, but looking at it like this, Graham Glasgow is expected to become a free agent, which I have no idea why. I don't know why you would let Graham Glasgow become a free agent unless he just wants so much money. It's ridiculous for you to just get someone better. I don't know why you would let him become a free agent. That'd be my first thing. I'm bringing Graham Glasgow back. But then I'm getting a left guard as well. And I think Joe Thuney makes a lot of sense because of his health. I think going to get a top-end offensive lineman is super important at the guard position. Let's not play around with, oh, we got a guy, you know, they're solid. Let's be great. We don't have, look at the Lions. What are we great at? What are we known for? You know, you think of teams, what are they known for? Oh, the Chiefs. Well, they score 100 points. You know, they got a crazy air raid offense. You can't stop them. That's why they're good, because they're known for something. Niners, what are they known for? They have a great defense. Everything else is great, but they have a great defense. They just shut teams down. What do the Lions do well? They got Stafford. Ask any fan that's not a big Lions fan, that's just maybe just a casual sports fan in general, and say, name as many players you can for the Lions. They'll probably go Stafford. They may name Slay. They may name Galladay, but most likely it's going to be Stafford every time because he's their quarterback. And why? Because he's our best player. And if you're thinking that I'm just saying, well, okay, you know, you could do that with any team. Well, not necessarily. I mean, there are some really bad teams out there with really good players. For example, the Jets. Some people may not be able to name Sam Darnold, but they could tell you that Le'Veon Bell was there because he was a beast before he went there, and I think he's going to become a free agent. Let me just point that out. But anyways, offensive line to me is the biggest thing. There's a reason that, you know, the quarterback is always looked at as the best position, and they always get drafted first overall because everybody's trying to find our future quarterback. Because that's how important they are. We have our quarterback, and no, I'm not going to go on a rant and say, don't draft a quarterback at 3. You know, that's a terrible option. Don't do that. I'm going to say here right now, it's not about that. It's about protecting your guy that you do got. Because obviously, when you don't have him, we are awful. Our defense is not very good. Our offense is good when Stafford's healthy. When he's not healthy, it's not very good. And we are terrible. We were 0-8 without him. It's that simple. We are 0-8 without our quarterback. Keep the quarterback healthy. Keep Stafford healthy. And that starts at the offensive line. Stacking the offensive line does so many wonders. It helps the wide receivers. It helps the tight ends. It helps the running backs. It helps the quarterback. It helps everybody. And it makes everybody's life easier when you have a great offensive line. Let's be good at one thing. And you know what? If it's not going to be offensive line, then be trenches on the defensive line. I want to be good trenches out. I love the other positions, but I think, honestly, a lot of our skill positions look pretty solid. And, you know, you could add some nice pieces there. I'm not mad about, there's some nice depth here. Let's draft one there. You know, let's take it. He's a little bit of a steal. But I'm saying, for the most part, we got some really good skill position players. Look at some other teams around the league. They would love to have our wide receiver core. We got Kenny Galladay. We got Marvin Jones. 2 really good wide receivers. Galladay could be maybe the best wide receiver in the league. He had the most touchdowns last season. All right? We have Danny Amendola, who I believe will be back, who was maybe one of the best years he's ever had with us. Marvin Hall, D-Ball Hall was an absolute legend. We have some depth. We got some good players. We still have Fulgham. I mean, we got some stuff going on here. But the offensive line isn't very good, and then that needs to be fixed first and foremost. So me, if I'm the general manager, if I'm Bob Quinn, the first thing I'm addressing is the O-line. I want to have a great offensive line, okay? And if it only means getting a left guard and you're not replacing Rick Wagner because you're just going to hold on for one more year because it's just too much to worry about, then okay, do it. Get a beast guard. If it means keeping Joe Dahl at the left guard, re-signing Glasgow, and go getting a right tackle and trading away Rick Wagner and then getting a replacement, okay, go do it. Upgrade the O-line somehow this offseason. Next thing, we're flipping to the other side of the ball. Trenches again, defensive line. Again, defensive line needs help. We went over this. I went over this in a video where I said, what's the Lions' defensive problem and the solution? If you guys want to see that video, definitely go check it out because I pretty much break down what the problem is defensively in the best way that I could because, it is kind of confusing and obviously no one really knows for sure exactly what it is, but I think defensive line is a very, very big problem. Cornerbacks, not that bad. Let's just think about it for a second. I can bring up the numbers, but I'm not going to because I don't want to take away from the other video. We got some talent out there. And yes, I want to add some help at the cornerback position. Don't get me wrong. We still got Amani. We still got Coleman as a really good slot when we get some pressure. We got Darius Slade. That's 3 really solid cornerbacks there. Then you just need a little bit of depth, just a little bit of help in the back end. You still got some nice young safeties. They're going to continue to improve. Tracy Walker coming into a 3rd year. He's getting really good as a safety. Will Harris, being a 2nd year, he finished the year off very, very strong. You got some young guys. You got some depth. You're looking solid on the outside. Yes, they could use some help, but they're looking pretty solid. But the D-line, oh my goodness. The D-line's looking disgusting, especially in the interior. Not the exterior. It's not that bad. You got Devon Kennard, who's just been balling out at the linebacker position, basically playing defensive end. You have Trey Flowers, who, yes, I know we paid him a lot of money, but he was still an absolute freak, okay? He was a freak for us because no one else was, and he was basically double-teamed every single time because it's Trey Flowers, and we're only bringing 3 guys. So let's just block that guy. That's what the other team said. But yet, he still came up with 7 sacks after a really slow start because of an injury that was lingering. So he was really good. But the interior defensive line, oh my gosh. You guys, again, go watch that other video if you guys wanted me to really break this down. It's the Lions' defensive problem with a solution. But man, the defensive tackle position is, it's nasty, my boys. Think about this for a second. All right, my man Snacks Harrison had 32 less tackles than he did the year before. And I think 1 less game. All right, Mike Daniels, who I guess someone said he played 9 games. I must have had 3, my bad. Mike Daniels isn't going to be here next year anyways, I don't believe. Ashawn Robinson, who had a complete dip after 2018. So defensive line, the interior specifically, that needs fixed. And I think, there's a lot of ways to go about this. Derek Brown is going to be an option. I honestly don't think Derek Brown is the option, though, because I don't think we get him at number 3. Now, if we trade back from number 3, that's when Derek Brown completely comes on the table. Because now, there's 2 options I'm looking at in the first round, and only 2. I'm looking at Javon Kinlaw, who's just rising up in stock, and I'm looking at Derek Brown. Neither of those guys I'm looking at number 3. If we're sitting at 3, my options look like this. Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, maybe Okuda. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now. If Chase Young's there, you take him. Okay, if he's not there, you take Isaiah Simmons. That's all I like. That's what I like, man. That's what I wanted. That's what I see right now. And even if you want Okuda, fine. But I'm not thinking Derek Brown at 3. I don't think at 3. I do like him, though. So if we trade back, definitely he is on the table, and we could take him then. Even if it's trading back 2 spots, then you could take him. Kinlaw, potentially. But I think those are the only 2 first-round guys that I'm looking at. But then you still have some talent. You have guys like Gallimore sitting there. You got Raekwon Davis, who some people think is a sleeper. You have some really solid second-round talent at defensive tackle. Boom, add one of those if you want. But I think you also need to go in free agency. We need more than just a second-round defensive tackle. We need a stud that is solid. It's nice to get young guys, get rookies because they're young and they got so much potential. But you're asking a rookie to be and fill in your biggest position of need, that's not always the best decision. You kind of want a guy sometimes that you just want a guy sometimes that, you can sit back and say, that dude knows what he's doing, and I'm glad he's on our squad. That's what we have in free agency in Chris Jones and Javon Hargrave and multiple other players. But Chris Jones is that dude for me. I'm going to make it simple. Lions off for Chris Jones. If he doesn't want to take it, he doesn't take it. Hargrave is my next man up. That's why I mentioned him a lot. But man, I would try to bring in one of those 2 guys because if you fill out defensive tackle, then you take one in the draft in the top 3 rounds, you got a defensive tackle, you get some O-line help where I'm thinking, again, top 3 rounds offensive line. And listen to this. I don't even think I'm against drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. But here's how I'm thinking. It's just a basic setup here. I think you look at free agency and you try to get a really good offensive lineman and a really good defensive lineman. If you only can sign one, that's okay. Try to get one of the 2. Okay, try to get one of the 2. Then you look in the draft. If you get 2 of 2, great. If you get one, if you only get 1, that's okay. So let's just say, for example, we get a good offensive line, which I think makes more sense than trying to get offensive line in the draft because I really do feel like some of these guys are going to fall. But get a really good offensive lineman in free agency, for example. Now you're looking at defense. Okay, defensive line. you need some help. So you better be looking, okay? I'm thinking trade back options. So if you don't get a beast defensive tackle, I'm thinking you trade back potentially in the first round if you can. Back up a little bit, then take a Kinlaw, or you take Derek Brown because you need a stud because you didn't get one in free agency. I honestly think it's probably a bigger need to just go get a free agent defensive tackle because I do think offensive linemen in the draft, you're going to find starters later on. Let's think about it, though. First round picks, I think there's a lot of tackles out there, but we don't need a tackle. Tristan Wirfs maybe, but we don't need a tackle. So at that point, I'm thinking it's guard, and there's not really any guard that I'm looking at in the first round. So honestly, don't even worry about it because you're not going to find one. Most likely, you're not going to find one. Now, there's some really good guys out there that are going to come second, third, and maybe even later. Ben Bredesen, Tyler Biadasz, Logan Stenberg. There are some really, really talented players that are going to fall past that first round for the offensive line, and they're going to be guards that can actually help us. So I'm thinking guard is the big need, but go get a beast defensive tackle. Find a way to get a defensive tackle. Just find a way in free agency. Then add a second one throughout the draft or free agency, but add one through the draft you have to. You need to have a stud that's proven at defensive tackle. That's the biggest need. Also add some offensive line help. Those are the two places I'm making this video just make it simple. Some people ask me, what do you want to do during the offseason? What do you want to do during draft? I want to stack the trenches. We need to be a trenches out team. First 3 rounds, whatever. You needed these trenches out just like I said. Now, there's some other position you can throw in there because I'm only named a couple of draft picks. First round, I think Isaiah Simmons still makes sense. Imagine taking Isaiah Simmons, getting a big name free agent defensive tackle, offensive line second round, potentially third round, and offensive lineman second round. You got Isaiah Simmons in the first round. You got a really good defensive tackle. Then in the third round, you add another defensive tackle to add some more depth. Then you're getting some edge rushers mixed in. You get a late round cornerback like a Troy Pride, maybe a Lamar Jackson to fill in, potentially be your next Amani. And I think those are really your big needs. Maybe you get a sleeper wide receiver in free agency or the draft. But I think that's where it starts, man. I'm making it simple. Trench is out. Linebacker could be a nice need, especially if you trade back. If you can trade back in the first round, then you can add a defensive lineman and potentially a linebacker as well because you're going to get a lot in return, man. Trade with the Dolphins. I'm just saying if they want to, you could get a linebacker like a Kenneth Murray, a Patrick Queen, all in the first round as well as a defense, as well as maybe defensive tackle help. Or, because Isaiah Simmons isn't going to fall that far. So the thing is, once you trade back, you're probably Isaiah Simmons is going to be off the board. Chase Young's going to be off the board. Maybe a Derek Brown. Then you compare Derek Brown with a beast defensive tackle. No one said you couldn't. That would still be nice. A Kinlaw with a beast defensive tackle. That would be very, very nice. And then worst case scenario, if you can't land one in free agency, then you just take one there. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm thinking Trent is out. That's how I want the Lions to go this offseason. This may have been a little bit confusing. I'm sorry. I kind of just rambled here. But I wanted to give you guys, in simple, summarize what I just said. Trent is out. Offensive line, defensive line, work your way out. Front 7 defensively, get some linebackers as well. Don't forget that. But that's where I'm looking, y'all. And then everything else is great, but that's where I want to get help first. Protect Stafford, get some pressure, and have some linebackers that are pretty reliable. Unless you think your guys are. If you think they're reliable, then rock with them. But otherwise, get some dang pressure and don't allow pressure. Let me hear your thoughts, comments below. Thank you, Brett, for watching, and I'm out.